Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm just coming on today to talk to you about February comprehensive astrology. Thank you so much for checking back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful start to the year of 2022. It is quickly changing, as I'm sure you can feel. We have just come past the official nodal shift that happened on January 18th, and I feel that we are all accustoming ourselves to a much more condensed, much more streamlined, much more obvious experience. I'm hoping that you're feeling a little bit more obvious because we are going to have to really be working on cutting things back, weeding out some unnecessary components of the experience, and preparing for more of a segmentation of what we want to experience. So really being able to group and organize the elements of our lives in a way that is not so confusing to us anymore. And this is going to kind of be a year-long type of project for most people, though I'm already feeling that here by February 2022, many people are coming much more close in an organized way to what they want. Just to send us straight into these intuitive messages for February of 2022, it's really wonderful to start organizing your experience a lot more. Logistics come to mind, frameworks, being able to journal or plan or strategize in a totally new way. So this was very prominent ever since 2020, the want to figure stuff out in the mind, the want to, expand in such a planned, prepared way. And now the expansion is actually happening. The new roles for most people are coming in. Most people are finding themselves in somewhat new means of expression and means of purpose. And that comes with it a need, I think, to be able to comprehend what you have in front of you in a new way. So I'm going to be making a video on the nodal shift itself very soon. I'm going to talk about that shift for all signs. Be sure you're subscribed to this channel if you want a notification when that goes out. But what I can tell you is that you should already have a very keen understanding of some of the parts of your life that might have been leading to any type of swing back and forth, like really dramatic, one day I'm totally behind what I want to do, and the next day I'm totally 1,000 miles off on a totally different subject, and I want to do something totally incongruent to what I was wanting the previous day. That's very common during North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sag, being all over the place, wanting a piece of everything, wanting a limitationless experience. And already, as I'm talking to you today, whenever you're seeing this video, that has changed. There is not limitationlessness here with North Node in Taurus and South Node in Scorpio. This is about coming to grips with a new type of limitation, okay? This is about knowing that so much energy can't necessarily go out in the old ways. And if you find yourself having to go through gauntlets or extreme levels of energy necessitation, like in 2021, you have to make certain adjustments elsewhere. So if you have such difficult things in front of you still, which is not wonderful here in 2022, but I feel that quite a few people are there. There have to be adjustments. So now I know, for example, that because I have so much stuff in front of me now, I have to take on an assistant. Now I know that because I have so much stuff in front of me now, I have to sacrifice this part of my life that I hated anyway, okay, that I was forcing myself to do because I'm having some type of weird labor karma and making myself do too much. So I've got to sacrifice a few of those things so that I then have more breathing room in order to do what I really need to do. What I'm trying to get across here is that there should, right around the time of January 18th, but especially by February 1st, and really February 3rd, because that's when we hit all planets direct. That's when Mercury is going direct, and we'll get out of this Mercury retrograde where we had to look back decisively and understand where we went wrong, understand what was, a result of a desperate mindset versus an empowered mindset, so on and so forth. And we have a really crucial, and I keep saying this, it just keeps coming back over and over and over again, and this has been in since honestly, since Jupiter and Saturn came together in Aquarius, a sort of critical, crucial, oh my gosh, this is big stuff. This is the meaning of my life. This is stuff. I've got to do everything. I've got to be everywhere. I can't let this time pass without doing everything I've ever needed to do. I've seen so many people in that place. And if you're not in that place, if I'm saying this and you're kind of like, oh, wow, that's very foreign to me, that's good. But I would say also that nobody can totally avoid that. Whenever Jupiter and Saturn come together once every 20 years, like they did at the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021, that is setting a 20-year cycle. That is setting a career for some people. That is setting a long-term level of health. That is setting a long-term relationship, a marriage into action. The things, 20-year cycles, I mean, humans are lucky, I guess nowadays, to get like 6 or 7. I'm just kidding. But say, 80, 20, 40, 60, 80. 80 is a very, even 90 is, with this level of health capability, this level of convenience, is should be a very normal lifespan starting now. So we get probably 4.5 cycles of 20 years, barring any awful catastrophes or terrible illnesses. But, even in the future, if you're like super young, if you're like Gen Z or younger, you might even live to be like 110, 120, depending, of course. But we have to understand what 20 years means, and we need to come into a better logistics of long-term relevance and have a keen understanding of what we don't want to do for the next 20 years. If you have something in your life, like a job that you work like full-time at, that has a sizable amount of your energy given to it by contract, okay? If that doesn't feel good, and you've gone through the emotional learning curve, you've made sure that this isn't like a self-sabotage that you're in, that this isn't like a just a need to find something wrong, but that it's truly not right. This is a time, especially with Jupiter now in Pisces, of course, we're talking about the general theme of Jupiter conjunct Saturn, which happened last year, but it's still kind of in, but Jupiter has moved away now. It's in Pisces now, and it's moving fast. And that means that things should be starting to really drift away if we needed them to go. So by the time Jupiter gets into Aries this summer, it's already going to be like, holy whoa, I didn't let something go. We're going to get another opportunity in the second half of 2022 to really let it go. But that's really the last chance. Once Jupiter hits Aries for good, we have to really be willing to start over, or willing to be in that pioneering place. We got to some degree, love, or at least know that the current path is bringing us to where we want to be. So that brings up what I'm really trying to get here in regards to February 2022 with this nodal shift is it's already going to start being not just uncomfortable, but just impossible to do things that you're not meant to do things that are evocative of that. Like, I've got to have a piece of everything. I've got to have everything on the menu. I've got to, taste test every single thing in the restaurant. I've got to go to every store in the mall. I've got to visit every floor of the skyscraper. That's kind of the craziness, especially with this previous Mercury retrograde we have. It's very mercurial, but that's because the North Node was also in Gemini, right? Which is a Mercury-ruled sign, and that's the negative of North Node in Gemini, which we had throughout all of 2021, is like bouncing around mind, very strong erraticism, struggling to commit to things, but being in a beginning phase for like 30 or 40 different things and having to like digest and process that all day, every day. It's getting very uncomfortable, and already it's over, okay? But it can kind of echo, it won't probably be until like March that we're totally out of it. But it's interesting what I've learned about North Node in Gemini. I'm not going to talk too much more about it because I want to make a full video about it, because I've hinted and talked around this topic a lot. But I've seen that it does really last. So the mental, especially the overreaching or the overambitious, over-aspirational, what do I want to say? Communicative, mental components, thoughts, can become a habit. So we want to really work on that habit now and have an understanding of our talents and our known trajectories in a way that they are not holding us back in any way, or at war with one another, because we can't really focus them individually or stay focused. It's very attention deficit, right? North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sag. And North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio is hyper opposite. It's attention focused. So it's attention surplus, I would say. Ooh, I love that. Attention deficit versus attention surplus. We are now moving into attention surplus, and I will be talking about that more in the node video, and I'll move on now because I don't want to spend all of our time in this video talking about the nodes. But knowing that we might be coming into a time of attention surplus in February 2022, and this is going to really feel by around the end of March or early April, like that's going to be very tangible. Okay, so what needs our attention? It becomes the question, right? Like, what can we use that surplus on? What can we really look at here during February, especially in the early time of this nodal shift, as especially if you have placements in your birth chart that are at late Scorpio or early Sag, late Taurus or early Gemini at this point in time. I would imagine things are going to become a lot more personal, and the concept of vulnerability and progress within a certain aspiration or within a certain aim is going to start to really culminate, and it's going to be very important to understand also that some of the decisions made during this time are perhaps life-altering, or at least have some type of very strong implication for the long term. So I don't think that it's very avoidable for most people, especially if they are having any type of transit by the nodes right now. I mean, we're dealing with like destiny stuff there. We're dealing with long running karma and momentum. And I think that there are many rewards for most people to reap during the month of February, as it kind of feels like some of the kinks or some of the cogs are going to become a little bit less things are going to be worked out a little bit. And I do apologize for any of the revving outside, as it seems right when I sit down to film videos, people like to rev their engines outside of my house. So it is the way of the world, I suppose. But anyway, moving on with some intuitive messages in February before we get into the charts. I think that February is going to be just an adjustment period, and there's going to be a lot of positive progress being made. It's just going to be very important to not be afraid to shy away from the areas of your life that do need progress, and to try to step away from any past stagnation or any areas that you might be having a generalized kind of angst about, but refusing to really directly look toward. Also, I would pay very close attention to anything that you want to change in your life as well, because it's a supportive time for any type of direct change or any type of, known shift that needs to occur in your life. I wouldn't think that things are really going to stay the same this month. I wouldn't think that we will come out of February, and especially, towards like April and May of 2022, I wouldn't think that we're going to come out of that time in a very similar place, okay, or at least in a very similar mindset. It seems that the mindset could be undergoing some type of drastic change or progress right now too. Anyway, other intuitive messages for February. We have to really show up, okay? We have to really be present. We have to really be ready to go out every single day. So we're getting dangerously close to Year of the Tiger, and that does mean that there's not much time for a rest, relaxation, and especially if that contributes to things stacking up or getting a big sort of waiting list going for certain things that need to be done in your life, we have to be ready to face things quickly and deliberatively, and we can't really afford the old waited out game or the old, slow moving situations that we might have been in. And I'm not saying that you want to move recklessly. I'm not saying that you want to rush or push through things too quickly or in an inappropriately, clumsy type of way. That's not what I'm saying at all. We have to be very precise, and this is where the work that we've been doing for so many years now starts to not just be a benefit, but it becomes, the difference between whether this is a very big fumble period of time or whether this is a masterful kind of navigation of a super, super crucial period. Crucial era. So something else I will talk about for the intuitive messages of February, there should be contingencies in one's life, I feel. And I think that this is what a lot of the logistics or a lot of the strategies or planning motions that many people have set into place depends on. It's like we have to sometimes have a plan B, or we have to have an understanding that certain things are just so pressurized right now and so leveraged, so inflated, so burned out for some people, so overwhelmingly full of effort and full of, non-universal energy, very human energy. Very pushy, very expansive, very wanting of things yesterday types of experiences and mentalities and mantras, philosophies coming through now. And because of that, things can break very easily. I want you all to understand this, and this is probably the most important thing to know of February. There is a fragility and there is a general kind of stress or strain placed onto the machinery or the infrastructure or the things which we have been bearing down on for so long. So what that means, we talked in 2021 a lot about the factory culture, the factorization of labor, of human energy, and then also the non-seasonality of life that has been in effect for quite a while. Okay, I'm talking like probably since like the Industrial Revolution, but it's at a certain type of climax and also a certain type of shift right now where, having AI, having automation has changed that. And then also, a lot of things have changed that, economic things. It's beyond the scope of this video. My Global Dynamics video for the last chapter of 2021 touches on this type of thing more, so I'll link that below. It's certainly still relevant now because I don't want to move too much into that right now. But the reason I bring it up is because it's important. If you can imagine like a factory going full force, moving really quickly, all the machines like going for such a long time in such a pushy and high production capacity, it starts to bring a certain wear and tear, and it starts to bring a certain need for other options. What happens if one of those cogs is not functioning properly? What happens if one part of the factory or one part of the machine is not really working at all anymore? This can send the whole entire situation or the whole entire body or the whole entire the whole entire factory into a tailspin as the other parts start to get wear and tear because they're no longer functioning properly. So, coming right out of a Mercury retrograde and moving into a series of all planets direct, it could go one of two ways. Either there could be a huge new level of productivity that starts to come through, or there could also be a just complete change in what is being produced, or because of perhaps the stress and wear and tear of the way that things have been, resulting from the way that things have been produced for such a long time. And what this means to me symbolically, spiritually, and even physically to a degree, is just that we don't want to be super, super reliant on any one thing. But that's hard because that also then I feel puts us back into the previous nodal axis, North Node, Gemini, South Node, and Sag, where we're jumping around to so many different things, trying to have prosperity perhaps in too many places, or, out of the super focused place that we need to be in. And then you kind of start to see why 2021 was a North Node and Gemini, South Node, and Sag year, because it wanted us to really get an idea of where all we could live and where we all could work and where we could all, like how many different places one could pursue some type of prosperity in. So that is a kind of tender point of this general time, is that on one hand, we are called to condense and to weed out and to get more focused on what we're doing. But at the same time, there is a need for contingency, and there is a need for having variety and other options in one's life, okay? So that balance is where all of this work that we've been doing on, sober mind, clear body, clear thinking, having empty space to do that in, kind of getting away from the stimulants or anything that's messing with how you perceive or how you think about your world falsely, simply because you're ingesting that coffee, whatever it is. A lot of that type of stuff, a lot of the little things that we feel that we need to get through our day, having certain subscriptions, having certain coffee and certain types of food that are not really good for us, but are filling the space, the filler experiences. All of that is going to get a major detraction as well into this new paradigm that we're moving into with the nodal shift. So February might not totally nip that in the bud, but by April, okay, I think that it's going to be very different, and I think that we're going to have a much more kind of necessary outlay. So having the things that we actually need, relying less on filler experiences or filler foods, filler products, plastic, things like that. So there are plenty of things that you can do here in February that can start to get you in that direction, because it's not really going to be taken away, I don't think. I think that especially for pretty much the rest of 2022, nothing's really going to be completely taken, I feel. Certainly if one has a will, I think that they can still have all of these things in their lives, and they can still be thinking about a million different things, going a million different places, overusing their energy. But that, I do feel, would be very consequential for 2023 and 2024. Whereas if you can really understand what limits mean in your own life now, and actually, have more for less, you'll be really preparing your momentum, your resources, your energy, your productivity to really not be too pushed aside by the oncoming more difficult year cycles of 23 and 24. When I say more difficult, it's not necessarily more difficult, but if one maintains this sort of unrealistic fiat, overstimulated, over maze-oriented, maze of the mind, manic type of energy that was very prevalent in the last nodal axis, because the Scorpio, especially the Scorpio South Node, can also recreate that, because that deals also with like the chemicals of the body and the want to create a certain chemical state or a certain energetic deliciousness, I want to call it, with South Node in Scorpio. So it is difficult, especially with Jupiter and Neptune being in Pisces, for substance. I mean, that's very prevalent this year. So you want to really be careful there, because it's very easy to become addicted to something in the year of 2022. And that's not just substance. That can be a lifestyle, that can be a certain income, that can be a certain level of help from other people in your life. It's very easy with this fixed nodal axis, right, to not want to leave the 2022 year cycle when we might need to, when we might have a better calling beckoning us, but we're too addicted to a certain income or a certain class or a certain status or a certain hierarchy that we're not necessarily taking the beckoning call of our own soul purpose. So that's the main conflict or worry to me about the year of 2022, because that's going to be here. That beckoning soul purpose call is going to be here. And I actually had someone comment recently on one of my videos that the purpose talk was getting old, or that they found that, speaking about purpose or speaking about that was getting old. And I do agree. I agree that that's something that the spiritual or New Age or whatever community does talk a lot about. But it's just because it is that way. I mean, when you have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces and you have this nodal axis doing what it's doing, when you're coming after a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, just like 400 days ago, like this might be getting old, but I will say for anybody at any age, at any state of their life, purpose is a part of the experience right now, more so than relationships, more so than money, more so even than health. Okay, all of these things might be having purpose channeled through them, but I have to say that purpose really does come to the forefront under this particular type of astrological outlay. So I do understand that it's something that does get a lot of talk, and some people really do push it a lot. And I have talked a lot about it throughout the year of 2021. So if purpose is not what you want to hear about, let's go to the different YouTube channel. But it is not something that's probably escapable. You might hear it in every single YouTube video outside of even this category, astrology, whatever. So it's probably, you might even see like billboards with like the word purpose written on it. You might see that people at the coffee shop are talking about it. Like it's not going to be a concept that we can not see during the year of 2022. Okay, we can't hide from purpose during this time. It is everywhere. It is a part of everybody's experience. And by the time that it's really going to be for the rest of the 2020s, okay? It's going to take Pluto getting pretty far into Aquarius because it's going to reactivate the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction even once it gets to Aquarius. So all of the 2020s are going to be very purpose-oriented. And this particular month of February is starting to get our mindsets very condensed and very, again, attention surplus to the point that we can really dialogue with it and we can really understand what does and does not contribute to it. So let's talk specifically about the astrology in February 2022. I already talked a little bit around it, so forgive me if the video is a little bit scattered, but I just want to write down the timestamp so that I can remember for the editing. Okay, live videos, highly unedited and quite raw. So let's see. First, I want to tell you about all planets direct motion. Okay, congratulations. Take a second, pause the video. By February 3rd, we are in a state of all planets direct motion, no retrogrades happening, not one. Mercury will be moving direct on February 3rd, and it will still be a little bit in shadow for like a week there, so you might not feel it perfectly in its complete, pure all planets direct motion until like February 15th or February 20th, really. But officially, we are there starting on February 3rd. So what does this mean? I'm going to make a video just about all planets direct. So again, hit that subscribe button below if you're new to get notified when that goes out. But this means that we are ready for some real progress here, okay? Things are not going to stand in your way. Some of those old obstacles are gone. You've already gone through the gate. You've already gone through the portal. You've already stepped into the new world. And now you have to start taking some totally new steps, okay? This is a long all planets direct motion, okay? It's almost 3 months long, which is very long, okay? That's atypical. And it's because we spent so much 2021 in retrograde. You know, the heavens are mathematically quite perfect, okay? So if you have a long period of retrograde, you're going to have a longer period of all planets direct. If you have a shorter period of retrogrades, you're going to have a shorter period of all planets direct. It all moves in a perfect kind of synchronization, right? So because of the trials of 2021, now we have the benefits of 2022, and this is going to be very beautiful. This is going to be like emotional progress for a lot of people. This is going to be like finally getting past certain trauma. This is going to be like not feeling like your purpose is really that distant from you. This is going to be like, wow, you're finally able to write that book. I might be doing that as well. You might finally be able to get ahead of that previous back and forth in the mind, couldn't get past something, couldn't get the answer. You might finally get that yes or no that you've needed. You might finally be approved for some type of business plan or some type of funding or something that you've needed if you're a business person. Those previous gates or those previous jarring and nails down a chalkboard retrograde experiences are closing out early on in February. Congratulations. So again, stay tuned for the All Planets Direct video. We'll talk specifically about it there, but that's just going to set the stage. Okay. Also, we have the exact Pluto return in the US, okay, coming in February 20th, I believe it is, of 2022. So of course, the entire world is impacted by that. If you guys would like a Pluto return video, comment below and let me know. And hit the likes on that comment so I can understand. I'm not sure if you guys want a video like that, but I would be happy to make one. I would need to kind of plan that out a little bit because that's a very deep issue. But yes, if you want a Pluto return video for the US and for the world by extension of it, let me know in the comments. So knowing that that's coming in, this is where I was kind of talking about contingency, okay, in the intuitive messages. That's really what that was pulling up for me. I do feel that the way that a Pluto return or the way that any sizable return or any sizable transit like that, and it's not just a sizable transit, it's a life-altering transit. It's a very, very deep and intense transit, and I actually cannot access that energy I'm in that energy right now, and I'm feeling it, and I might make some notes later, but this video will be derailed if I focus too much on it. But it's good to know that that's coming into exact transit February 20th. Okay, so if you're in the US especially, or really anywhere in the world, there are some places in the world, actually, I'm just feeling intuitively, that are totally disconnected from it, but these are very rare places, and these are places that are also not very connected to the US in any way. So if you're in the US or in a country that's highly connected to the US, okay, the Pluto return is going to have an impact, which is a lot of the world. But some of the world is not, okay? So you might be in a very lucky place if not. But knowing that that's coming in February 20th, you might just want to take some time to really lighten things up, right? Pluto is a heavy energy. It's a extremely visceral and transformative and, cogent and high contrast, extreme energy. So whatever you can do to desaturate certain things, to soften things, to divest yourself of things is the way to offset that. Okay, we don't want to be 100% reliant on any one thing, but also, again, contradiction, right? Because this nodal axis is wanting us to increase certain reliances and wanting us to invest in certain places. So we have to be very tempered, very balanced, highly balanced. So Libras, highly evolved Libras out there could be very great leaders right now, okay? Because or anybody who has a great kind of neutral or a less emotional, more impartial way to navigate certain choices is really needed. Because I will say emotional decision making, okay, during Pluto return, high level histrionic tendencies or needs for drama, needs for power, needs for wealth and things like that become quite debilitating. But for some people, it's also super empowering. It's not just one or the other. It's not just good or bad. It's not just like, it's a Pluto return. That means that there's going to be a lot of like lawlessness and a lot of, terrible things happening and a lot of like gross egotistical people. Or very polarized experiences. That will happen. Okay, those things are part of it too, but there's going to be the other end of the spectrum, right? There's going to be like extremely certified, like extremely right, less egotistical, less emotionally ruled, less like just breath of fresh air people as well. Like there's going to be two very hyper polarized ends of the spectrum. And also they might present differently, okay? So they might not be coming off as that which that they are. That's the thing about Pluto's. There's the mask, right? Like Pluto, the sign of Scorpio rules masks, and it rules things being that which they are not. So try to watch out for quick judgments, or especially in the month of February. So again, pulling us back to February, this is not a Pluto return video, but in February, we have to understand that we might not know exactly what certain things are. It's difficult to come to a judgment or to come to a conclusion or to get that yes or a no. Just the concepts of yes and no are a bit skewed during something like a Pluto return. So concepts of good and evil, concepts of yes and no, these polarized oppositional concepts become problematic during a Pluto return. So we're going to see that at the end of February. So again, what I've been talking about for a long time, like people who are a bit more impartial, okay, a bit more neutralized, okay, a bit more flexible with contingency, with options, while also having a very sober, direct, and focused mind amidst a kind of moving, unstagnant backdrop is the most likely to be okay and to get through this time well. However, not everybody is there, and everybody is in every different situation. So what you can do to kind of get closer to that during February, looking at these transits, looking at this chart, I actually want to pull up the end of the month chart since we're talking past February 20th. Let me just write down the timestamp again, 3333, how perfect. Okay, so yes, by the end of the month, we have the perfect Venus-Mars conjunction. And that says to me that actually relationships are playing a bigger role, that those are happening right around the time of the Pluto return and right around this general dialogue. And they're coming right up to Pluto, right? So that's an interesting synchronicity. Transiting Pluto, conjunct Venus, conjunct Mars. Relationships are probably actually at the epicenter of some of the Pluto return karma. And also there's going to be this like feeling, I think, of teamwork or feeling of being in the same boat, feeling of belonging. Okay, this is actually beautiful, though there is a power dynamic behind it. All right, Pluto, Venus, Mars in Capricorn. This is like clan mentality. This is like tribal mentality. This is like kind of almost medieval or middle age clan or middle age hierarchy as well, coming in to make a line of demarcation within the current New World hierarchy, because this is, of course, completely juxtaposed to the Saturn, Mercury, Moon in Aquarius that we have there, right? That's a totally other paradigm. That's like AI, automation, complete New World, what we've never seen before, the new kinds of hierarchy, the new kinds of systems, which really are not that new, but unfamiliar. Certainly, these are the unfamiliar hierarchies. Again, we have this New World, Old World battle, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, two different forms of hierarchy fighting or battling to some type of superiority. So anything evocative of like superiority or hierarchy or anything like that can be quite a debilitation during this time, as the Pisces stellium, okay, Sun, Jupiter, Neptune in Pisces, washes all of that stuff totally out. You know, hierarchy doesn't have the power, the meaning perhaps that we think it does. But again, that which has power, that which has meaning has it because people think it does. So again, it's a fiat kind of very human system, yes. But hierarchy is quite meaningless at the bottom of the ocean. You know, nothing there. It's like, to some degree, an illusion, or to some degree, some type of like game. So we have, again, this Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces concentration. Right. Last three signs of the zodiac, super mature, super old, super elderly stuff. Again, very clan-like. Okay. It's very, I see a potentiality just as perhaps a collective forecast for you all of new types of clan mentalities rising up all across the world, new types of perhaps even social media based clans, or not necessarily social media, but even geographical clans. So, and this could be very new. This is perhaps something that we haven't seen since like the medieval era, but it is reforming and coming through once more. So that's interesting to take into consideration with any plans that you might have towards moving, or it would be good to be around a clan, or it would be good to have some type of community, right? Community is like the more contemporary concept, but I'm feeling that this has a very old world connotation, right? With the Venus, Mars, and Pluto in Capricorn. This is like old clan stuff, like old kind of like noble hierarchy types of things like that, things that we don't have quite as prevalent, though it is, but it's not what it used to be. Those things are reemerging now. So there's a possibility of people like having their own, like, I don't know, clan memberships, and even having like old, seemingly outworn but kind of medieval like hierarchical components within those clans, and those could be again popping up in lots of places. So that's just an interesting food for thought. And then this can also be as micro as like marriages or partnerships, where you might even be creating a clan, you might be having a family. It's an interesting time to have a family, okay, creating your own like clan, or creating your own family dynamic, okay, with the Venus, Mars, Pluto in Capricorn. And again, as I'm looking at this end of the month chart, like what it evokes to me just at a whole level, like not individual placements, but the entire sort of Rorschach of the chart, as I like to call it, it evokes to me such a comprehensive jack of all trades type of mentality. I don't think that any of us can afford, if we want to not like have a kind of go big or go home, winner takes all mentality or dynamic in our life, where we could lose everything really quickly or gain everything really quickly. If we want a kind of secure and steady experience, which I feel is most noble at this time, we have to kind of have everything and nothing. Okay, it's very hard for me to explain. I feel it in my solar plexus. I feel what is needed here, but it's very difficult to articulate, because as I start to talk about any one part of it, it starts to sound kind of contradictory. Because this is all contradictory. This is semi-sextile stuff. Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. It's juxtaposed. It conflicts. It contradicts itself. Again, like if you imagine New World, Old World, like if you think of AI versus like Old World structures and institutions, and how they kind of like need each other, but they don't really actually harmonize. That's the energy that we're in. So it means that all of us, again, need to have that, semi-contact with AI and have the benefits of automation in our life. And then at the same time, we need some of those old world constructs too, because they seem to be, at this period of time, codependent on one another. At the same time, with the Pisces energy, we need to have a strong spiritual core. Okay, we cannot lose track of our karmic implications for some of us of our religion or of our beliefs. Okay, we cannot let those things be washed out by these hyper control oriented mechanisms, and these hyper technological dystopian type of things can be very hard on people's beliefs, or very hard on people's belief systems and their connection to source or higher power. Again, because as we're here on YouTube, or as we're on social media, or working our job and making money and doing all those things are not in the same way evocative at their core, at their level of production of higher power or source. Now, it can channel itself through those things, but those things are human inventions and human creations, which might be motivated by source or higher powers, but of course succumb to the human condition and become human constructs by virtue of being inhabited by humans. So that kind of battle between humanity and between, higher power or source is a big thing right now as well. And a lot of us, I would definitely recommend, if you're particularly concerned or particularly worried to have to deal with something, or constantly back and forth about have I done this right or wrong? Am I in the right or wrong place? Am I, doing the right thing with my purpose in my life? Try to offset that with a bit more prayer, perhaps, or a bit more connection to nature or humanity's more source-oriented tendencies, rather than the money grid, for example, or the popularity grid, or even the dating or relationship grid. Those things are quite low vibration to me right now. But again, because of the contradictions, because of the semi-sextile angles, they're not something that we can also just leave behind either. So it just is kind of where we're at. And again, as I'm looking at this total chart and thinking comprehensively about the entire month, there are some really, really incredible levels of progress that are kicking off right now, okay? There are some incredible levels of triumph that people are going to be getting into. People are solving problems, especially between now and April. But that's already starting off by mid-February for sure. And by late February, there are solved problems. There are things that we've left behind. We're no longer wounded and self-sabotage for some people, and we understand our minds more. I feel that we know our own mind a little bit more by the end of February, with Mercury coming right up direct, moving past Saturn. That Mercury-Saturn conjunction to me was very good. Okay, I saw it as a very good thing. I saw that entire retrograde as a necessity, because it came up to Saturn and it went back, and we had to look back at things. We had to take a second look at what we'd predicted for ourselves, or what we thought we wanted, and really see with where we are now, and compare those things. And for a lot of people, that was a sigh of relief. Wow, I was actually wrong. Okay, admitting being wrong is a wonderful, wonderful advantage for some people right now, in every walk of life. Okay. And then also by the end of the month, as Mercury moves back up to Saturn, you can reinstitute, or you can redo, or just know your own mind a lot better, which helps you to be a more masterful navigator of energy and path in general. So anyway, everyone, that seems like a very appropriate place to wrap up the video. Check out my Patreon page if you want bonus content. I'll link it below, and in the center of your screen, you can click over, and I'm offering weekly tea chats as a bonus. I'm doing the readings early and ad-free over there with extended counterparts, and it's a very great way to support this YouTube channel and to get more information and more content. So thank you all so much. Great luck with February, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes up this month. Much love. Bye.